Hello everybody, thanks for joining us on the webinar today. My name is Drew Bennett. I'm a music scheduling consultant here at MusicMaster. The webinar today will be right around 45 minutes to an hour long. And although we're not going to take some live questions, we are taking written questions with your GoToWebinar panel. You'll see the questions box over there on the right-hand side. If you have any follow-up questions and you're a supported contact with MusicMaster, please don't hesitate to call your assigned music scheduling consultant to get your question answered. I'll be giving a rundown of future webinars that we encourage you to attend after our presentation today. Today we'll be going over the top 10 support questions we receive here at MusicMaster. We're looking forward to it, and hosting today's top 10 list is Paul Zeno. And with that, I am going to throw it over to Paul. Paul, can you hear me okay?
I sure can, Drew. Thank you. And now everybody should be able to see my screen as well. Good afternoon. As Drew has told you, we're going to be discussing the top 10 support questions. These are the questions that come into us at the support center here for MusicMaster, the top 10 that we get. And we're just going to kind of go through them. Some of them take a little bit more to discuss and define, and others are kind of quick. So we're going to go through this, and obviously we're going to start with number 10 and work our way backwards to number 1. So number 10, most requested help desk type of thing, is how do I generate a spins report? And we've got two different ways of doing that. The first one is via the history browser, and we've got two different ways of getting into the history browser in MusicMaster. The first one would be to click on the history browser icon, which would open up the history browser, or we can go to Dataset, Analysis, and History Browser. Either will take you to the same place, right here into the history browser options. Now we're going to do a spins report for a week, and we're going to do it for the last completed week. In this database, a week runs Tuesday through Monday, so we're going to be actually running the report from Tuesday the 28th, yesterday, through next week, Monday, May 4th. Click on the Categories tab, and we'll select which categories it is that we'd wish to include in this report. I'm just going to click my first three here: currents, new currents, and recurrents. Don't need to filter this list at all. If you did filter it, if you wanted to see your top spinning males or top spinning certain sound code and that sort of thing, you can use the Filters tab to do that. The Display tab is very important here, and this is typically what trips people up when they're first trying to run a history browser report. And it's because you need to switch your display mode from individual plays, which would give you a breakdown song by song of what played each time that song played during that time frame. Switch it to individual songs. That'll give you a breakdown song by song of how many times each title played, not each play that occurred. Within the display options, we can change some of these items to no. For example, if we don't need to see the MusicMaster song ID, simply switch it to no, and that's just a simple double click. Or you can use the pull down here to select no. I'm going to leave the category set at yes. I don't need to see the runtime of each song, so again I'm switching that to no. Turnovers would show us the minimum amount of time between two spins of any given song in the list, the maximum amount of time between two spins of any song in the list, and then the average as well. For my general history report here that I would be sending out to record reps or posting online, I don't need to show the turnover information. I also don't need to show the total amount of time that each song took up, so I'm going to leave that at no. Showing rank will actually put this in the order of most to least spun song. So we're going to turn that to yes. Maximum rank, this way we can tell MusicMaster, do we want our top 10, top 20, top 50? We'll go ahead and set it for our top 40 spins. Spins mode is total spins. If we have a minimum and maximum of total spins that we want to include, we can set that here as well. And we can also include some extra fields. In this case, I'm going to include my album field. So I use the pull down list and select album. I don't have any other fields I need to include in this report. If I need to name this specifically, we could enter that name here. If we wanted to print the graph with it, we could include that here by switching this to yes. At this point, we have set up and laid out our history browser report to show us a spins report for a week. By clicking OK, MusicMaster does its calculations, and we get our spins report for the week of April 28th through May 4th. And we see our most spun song is from the Death Magnetic album by Metallica, and it's called Cyanide with 34 total spins. And it goes on down from there. Now to print this, we could click the print icon right here, which will give us an actual quick print of what we see on the screen right now. And you'll see the print preview on the screen here momentarily. Just need to let it resize for a second. And now you should see the print preview, and it looks basically just like what we had before. Gives you your time frame and so on, and the name of your database here in the upper right corner. If you don't want to print it out on this form, you could always click the copy icon, thus copying it to your clipboard, and then you can paste it into Excel, into a Word document, just paste it into an email or whatever other form you have that would accept that. Simply click copy and then paste it in there accordingly. And that's the first way of getting a spins report. The second way, I'm just going to close out of here real quick, is to do it via special history reports. A lot of our stations like to do a radio and records report or an FMQB report. And you can do that via data set analysis and special history reports. And within the pull-down list here, we have a variety of different reports depending on what country you're in and so on. We'll just take the radio and records report for USA. You can include all the categories you wish. Set up your time frame accordingly, whatever you want. If you want the same thing, we would do April 28th through May 4th. The important thing here that trips folks up is the Options tab. You have to click on Options and make sure you set your song fields correctly. We need to know the artist name is in the artist field. In some databases, the artist name field wouldn't be the artist field. It might be composer, it might be writer or something like that. Just make sure that the artist name field is selected, your title field and your album field are selected accordingly. Go back to report setup and you can hit print and you'll get a printout of what it's going to look like. And you're seeing that now on your screen. It's very small at this point, but you could print it out and it would look like a notepad type document. You've got your plays, artist and title info, and then your album over here on the right. So those are the two ways that you can generate a spins report, which is our number 10 question we get. Which brings us to number 9. I'm having problems with my rotations. For example, my current category doesn't seem to want to play in order. So this happens when you've got your currents being scheduled and it's the first category you're going to schedule. So we're going to take a look at the first thing here, and that is the order in which these songs are scheduling. Just opening up the category, this is not your scheduling order. The order they're listed here is basically the order they were added to the database. And you can see this via the MusicMaster Song ID field. The MusicMaster Song IDs are sequential, so when you added song number 2570, it was named 2570 in MusicMaster and so on. If you want to see the scheduling order, you can right-click in this area and go to, we would right-click here on the header, go to Arrange List, and go to Sort by Schedule Order, which reorders it. This is the order in which the songs are scheduling in this category. So the first song to schedule will be All That Remains, followed by Disturbed, Seether, Metallica, and Papa Roach. This potentially would be the order that you're seeing things scheduled. So they might not be scheduling in order what you would appear to be the scheduling order because you haven't sorted it by schedule order. You can also see this information by right-clicking on the category here in the info bar and going to Schedule Order. Or by going to Data Set, Schedule, Schedule Order. Takes you to the same place. And here we see our scheduling order goes 2 Weeks by All That Remains, The Night by Disturbed, Careless Whispers by Seether, and so on. Same order that we have right here on our list. So this is the order in which you should expect songs to schedule. If not, if that's not the order in which they're scheduling, then you've got some other things to look at. One of those things would be, how deep are we digging into the category in order to find a song? With your first category that schedules on a current base type of a category, small number in there, like this one only has 5 songs, you probably are wanting to use a depth of 1. And you can see that in Schedule Properties. 2 ways to get there is by right-clicking in the category list here in your info bar and selecting Schedule Properties. Or you can get to this same location via Data Set, Schedule, Schedule Properties. And here we see our pass order. So we do see our category A is the first category to schedule. And we see our depth for category A is 1. which means MusicMaster is going to try to schedule the next song in our scheduling order, in this case all that remains. If it fails, the position will be left unscheduled, thus keeping it in scheduling order. So you want to make sure your depth is set at 1. If it's set greater than 1, it's giving MusicMaster the option of picking between 2 or 3 or 4 or however many songs your depth is set at, and then picking the song that it wants to use amongst those. So for these categories that you want scheduling in order, make sure your depth is set at 1. So we've got all those things checked out, and they all match up exactly how we want. What else could be causing it? Well, something called auto burn. We can check that via data set schedule and auto burn. If auto burn was implemented in our A category, we would probably see something like this, where we are burning one song every night at midnight. Or you might see it at a different time of day, or maybe just a song here and there type of thing. Auto burn is used to maintain rotation. For example, if we're going through here and we're going to schedule song 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and so on, and we keep repeating that, get here to the 11 o'clock hour, let's say we've scheduled song 3 in the 11 o'clock hour, naturally song 4 would schedule first in the midnight hour of Wednesday. But we're burning song number 4, we're burning one song at this point, and skipping over it, thus we would play song number 5 if we played 3 here. If you have auto burn set up, it's going to disrupt the flow of the category. Sometimes you need auto burn so that you don't have the same song playing in the same hour in back-to-back days. Other times auto burn is forgotten about, and you had 4 songs in the category playing 1 an hour every hour, and then you change to 5, but you still have the auto burn turned on. So make sure to check that out. Again, it's data set, schedule, auto burn, and we're not going to save that. Next thing to look at would be what rules are applied at this case. What might be causing the category to not schedule in order? If we've already checked the schedule order, the depth, the auto burn, then it's going to be rules that are going to be causing problems. And to look at that, you go into your rule tree. We open up the A category, open up the unbreakable rules, and we see we have an auto kick rule turned on here. Auto kick would basically, if the song played in the same hour yesterday, it's going to kick it out of that hour today if it's the one that would naturally schedule there, essentially dropping it to the bottom of the stack, much like how auto burn would work, except this would only happen if it was the same song trying to be scheduled in the same hour 2 days in a row. What other rules apply here? Well, this isn't the only unbreakable rule necessarily in the A category. We'd want to look at the category rule list. And to do so, right-click on the A current category and go to View Category Rule List. What you see now is a breakdown of all the rules combined between the All Categories folder and the Individual Category folder. So song start date, kill plays, and must fill fields are automatic. They're always turned on. All you have to do is populate the field for the rule to work. We've turned on day parting. We have clock segment timing and format clock filters turned on. Artist separation rule group with the artist keyword time separation set at 310, and then we see that individual category rule for auto kick full hour. Any one of these rules could be causing your category not to schedule in order. You can also check the all category rule bypass, which would precede this. See what categories are being skipped by the all categories rules? Simply right-click on MusicMaster Rule Tree, go to Rule Tree Properties. Any category with a check mark listed in the all category bypass is ignoring the all categories rules, which we see here. So if we're bypassing these rules, that might be why things are not scheduling the way you would expect, because we're not using all the tests on those categories. Or maybe we need to implement the category bypass, the all category rule bypass. Another question we get along the same lines is, why do some songs play more often than others? Well, that's a real good question, and one that you can check out because, we're looking at different things like artist separation. We're looking at sound coding. And what you might want to do is analyze the library and see exactly what your makeup is within a given category. If we open up the A and the B category at the same time, we can right-click here and go to Library Analysis. And we can switch fields. Let's take a look at our tempo codes. If we look here amongst the 12 songs that we have in these two categories, 7 are listed as up-tempo, 3 are medium-tempo, and 2 are kickin' ass tempo. If we have a rule that prohibits 4s from playing too many in a row, that could be what's causing a problem. Or if we have rules that prevent 5s from playing at all, that could be causing a problem as well, thus preventing songs from scheduling or encouraging something else to play more often. You could look at that for any of the fields database, like sound coding. We might have a rule that says no more than 3 straight rock songs in a row. Thus, we might have a problem since 58% of the database of these categories is straight rock, and so on. You can always look at the recap report and the thinking file to see what rules are exactly causing problems. And to see that, go to Dataset, Schedule, Recap Report. This is a breakdown of all the rules that were tested during the last auto schedule session. That session is listed down here, May 1st through May 7th. Category by category, we see how many times it tested each rule, how often that rule passed. So of 1,619 tests of artist separation for our 70s category, it passes 53% of the time, resulting in no failures or no unscheduled positions. That's how to read this report. And as you go through, you can see where you have, for example, we see our sound code rule group does occasionally fail with our X category. 2 times out of that whole week, we had problems with it. It's a breakable rule, so it didn't cause an unscheduled position, but it is a violation that was left in the log. And to see the thinking file, you would click on thinking right here, and it opens up this text viewer where you can see each decision as it was made. So if we look at our A category here, we see that the first song it tested was Metallica Cyanide, and it violated the artist keyword time separation rule, as did Lifeline by Papa Roach, as did All That Remains, and so on. Eventually it did find one that worked, Careless Whisper by Seether, and that was the song that was scheduled, and then we proceed. And the reason that was like that was based on the way the category is set up. So you can see the decision output here in your thinking file. Another great place to look to see why songs are scheduling more often than others, or not scheduling at all, or where you would expect. And that's a 9 question about rotation issues, which brings us to number 8. And we get this one fairly regularly as well, and that is, my database seems slow, or my replacement window seems slow in our schedule editor. Why is that? Well, we kind of went over this a couple of weeks ago when we did a dataset maintenance webinar that you can reference back on mmwin.com. The first thing to look at is how much history you're actually keeping active. Under Dataset Schedule and Purge History, we see how much history is active in the database. And it's going to tell us in our active history that the active history in this database dates back to January 21st through May 7th. And our archive dates back to February 1st of 06 through January 20th. We're keeping 90 days minimally of active history and 8 plays, and we're telling MusicMaster to automatically purge history when necessary. That auto purge happens after you've auto-scheduled a log. If you don't have that checked, you're not automatically purging history. Additionally, if you're not auto-scheduling your logs, you're doing everything by hand, again, you're not going to get MusicMaster to automatically purge history. So you might have a huge active history, which means every time MusicMaster goes to fill a position, it's testing that huge back history to see what will work and what won't work. So you might need to purge. If you go ahead and hit purge, it's going to bring us back down to the 90 days and 8 plays. Since we have it set to automatically do so, we don't need to force it to happen. But that's one of the first things we would look at if you're complaining of a slow database. Beyond that, we would want to run Tools Purge. Tools Purge is kind of like running a defrag on your hard drive. It basically takes your MusicMaster database, compacts it into a tight little unit, as tight as it can get it, and make it effective, thus getting rid of space and junk and that sort of stuff. When we run it, starting in 4.0 SR16, which will be our next release, you'll actually see a countdown down here in the bottom left corner of how much has been purged out. We'll go ahead and click yes, and it begins and it tells us what we're doing. We're purging unused keywords, purging deleted songs, and so on. And when the purge is done, in this case we only have a 0.04% reduction. It's not uncommon to see a 20%, 50%. I've even seen as much as an 80% reduction in a database that was performing slowly. So you want to make sure you do that periodically if you notice slowness in your schedule editor. Brings us to number 7. How do I play audio out of MusicMaster? Well, really, there's just one thing you have to do in MusicMaster, and that is set up the audio interface. And to do so, you'll go to Tools, Options, and then you'll go over to the audio file options. In this path right here is where you would indicate to MusicMaster where to find your audio files. So long as your audio files can be played in Windows Media Player and you have access to those audio files or have backups of those audio files that you have access to, you can play them from MusicMaster. In this database, my audio is kept on my local C drive in a folder called Audio. Using the pull down on the far right hand side here, we will select what field in MusicMaster holds the actual audio file name. In this database, it's called audio file. That's the name of the field that contains my file names in this database. Additionally, in this database, it includes the extension .mp3, .wma, .wave, and so on. That's already included in my audio file name field in MusicMaster. So this path is C audio at field 113. 113 is the field number for my audio file field in MusicMaster. We click Apply and OK. Let's go ahead and open up that currents category. And if we press F12, the audio should start playing. And Control F12 will end the audio. So we see we've got that set up. Additionally, we did an entire audio webinar on April 15th about how to set up audio from MusicMaster, as well as some other cool features, audio playback, video playback, linking to websites, and that sort of thing. If you check out that webinar from April 15th, you can get all the details on that. Aaron did an amazing job with that webinar a couple of weeks ago, so make sure to check that out. Our number 6 question that we get happens anytime somebody is starting up with a new database or they want to create a new printed log design, and it's, how come I keep getting this blank page to print in between each of my printed pages of my log? And there's a real quick and easy solution to that. We'll come up here to Data Set, Schedule, and Print Logs. There's a couple other ways to get to your printed log designer, but this is a quick one. We'll select the log design and hit Edit. If you're getting a blank page between print pages of your log, it's likely because MusicMaster feels it's overlapping a little bit. See how our printed page ends here at 6.5 inches and how the runtime field is right butting up against that 6.5 inch margin spot? If it exceeds it just a hair, just like when you print an item from Excel, sometimes the file's just a hair longer than what it appears and you get that blank page. Same thing here in MusicMaster. The way to fix that is to click here on your page setup icon and reduce margins. You only have to reduce it by maybe 1/10 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch at most on each side. So if we were to switch this to 0.9 inches left and 0.9 inches on the right, I'm about 99% sure that we're not going to have that blank page printing any longer in between printed pages of our log. So just make that quick little adjustment, try it out, print it. If it works, go ahead and come in here and save your printed log design. And that's how to get rid of a blank page between printed log pages. Number 5 is another quick question that we get. Usually 2 times a year we'll get these questions. March and tail end of October, beginning of November. And it's about daylight saving time adjustments. If you are in an area that does adjust for daylight saving time, you need to know when that's going to occur. Right now, it occurs in the United States the 2nd weekend of March and the 1st weekend of November. To see when your MusicMaster is set to do that, click on Help and System Information. And the second line of System Information tells you when that adjustment is going to be made. And we see that right here, daylight savings, March, Sunday number 2, the 2 a.m. hour, November, Sunday number 1, 2 a.m. hour. If yours says something different, then it's because your Microsoft updates need to be updated. If this is what it has, then you are correct and you're with everybody else in the U.S. that's following daylight saving. If daylight saving is different in your area, you might need to make an adjustment and have your Microsoft updates adjusted accordingly. The other thing we sometimes hear is, I don't want to adjust for daylight saving. How do we adjust for that? Well, come into Tools and Options, And under additional properties, we have the option of negating daylight saving adjustments. And it's here underneath your schedule header. Ignore DST. If that is set at 1, MusicMaster will not skip the 2 a.m. hour in March and double it in November. It will just leave things alone. Some automation systems get real funny with the skipping of an hour or doubling an hour, so you want to ignore the daylight saving adjustment for those systems. This is where you would do it. You would change that to a 1, hit apply, and no longer would MusicMaster adjust for daylight saving time. Brings us to our number 4 question that we get at MusicMaster support. This one's a little bit hairier, and it's about artist separation, in that my artist separations aren't working, or I can't seem to get my artist separations to work properly. Well, there's a couple of things to look for here. The first one is checking out those artist keywords. Make sure your artist keywords match up. I've had a client lately who keeps calling me saying that their artist keywords aren't working and they keep getting the Beatles to play too close to themselves. And it's because, for whatever reason, somebody keeps going in and deleting the secondary keywords. So they're playing Paul McCartney, and they're playing John Lennon, and they're playing Ringo Starr and George Harrison, and they keep playing too close to themselves because they're losing the Beatles keyword. So you want to make sure that your keywords are correct. So, for example, if we were to look up Van Halen in this database, got a lot of Van Halen songs in here. Let's go ahead and add in our artist keyword field. And we'll see that each of these songs is coded for Van Halen as an artist keyword. But there's been 2 singers in Van Halen that we're including in this database, Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth. So we want to make sure that the right songs are coded correctly. So It's About Time was a Sammy Hagar vocal. And if we hover on that, we see the artist keywords balloon pop up. If you double click on it, you also get the keyword entry box where we see Hagar Sammy as the secondary to Van Halen as the primary keyword. Ain't Talking About Love is a David Lee Roth song. So we want to make sure that David Lee Roth is listed as the secondary keyword on this song. Additionally, you want to make sure that all the David Lee Roth songs are coded for Van Halen and all of the Sammy Hagar songs are coded for Van Halen to keep them separated from one another. That's the first thing. Make sure your keywords are accurate. Another thing to look at is make sure that you have the same keyword on songs by the same artist. For example, I've seen situations where somebody's playing Garth Brooks, and they're also playing Brooks and Dunn, but both artists have keyword of Brooks. It's going to cause you problems because you're going to get separation amongst those artists, so you're never going to get Brooks and Dunn and Garth Brooks to play very close to one another, even though that would be perfectly fine. So you got to make sure that you have the right keyword for the right artist. Brooks, Garth for Garth Brooks, and Brooks and Dunn for the group Brooks and Dunn. So make sure you have those things correct. Other thing to look for is within the rule tree, make sure that you have the artist keyword rule turned on. And we can look in here and we see we have the rule group for artist separation, and there is our rule, 3-hour and 10-minute separation for our artist keywords in this database. But we might see something where it's not passing 310 for whatever reason. Let's go ahead and open up a music log. And we look here at Van Halen. In Van Halen we see we have a back and ahead time showing up down here in our artist keywords box in the results bar, saying it's back 235 and ahead 223. If we hover on that, you should see the balloon for that. This is a Sammy Hagar song one, so you see the Sammy Hagar back and ahead times as well. But over here in our rules, we see our back and that we're looking for 310. Well, how can that possibly be passing if it's 235 back and 223 ahead? Well, it's because this artist keyword for Van Halen has a unique separation time. And we can see that by going to the song card editor for that song. And here we see our artist keyword for Van Halen. Double click on it, and there's our Van Halen and our Sammy Hagar. Click on the icon for keyword properties, and we see that auto is not the default setting for Van Halen. We're using an hour and 5 separation for Van Halen, not the 310 that's the auto setting in the rule tree. Thus, an hour 5 is all we need so that Van Halen can play. Thus, it's passing the rule with 235 and 223. Same thing actually for Sammy Hagar in this situation. We're asking for an hour 5 back and ahead here as well. So those are important things to look for here if you think you're seeing artist separation issues. You also will want to look at gold recycling to make sure that you have rules applied during your recycling drop-off times. And you might want to look at your schedule properties as well to make sure that you're scheduling and that everything's falling into place properly when you are doing your editing. Because you might have a rule turned on at 5 a.m. that's not turned on at 6 a.m. And if you schedule the 6 a.m. rule, the 6 a.m. hour first, that rule might violate against the 5 a.m. play but not the 6 a.m. play. Things like that are important to look for. And your music scheduling consultants will certainly be able to help you figure out why you're seeing what it is that you're seeing within your MusicMaster if you're having artist separation issues. Number 3 on our list of support questions is, how do I make a backup? And this is really important. I highly, highly encourage everybody to make backups on a regular basis. I would certainly recommend that if you work in MusicMaster every day, Monday through Friday, you make a backup every day, Monday through Friday, to back up the work that you did that day. We did an entire webinar a couple of weeks ago, actually on April 4th, about library and dataset maintenance. Within that, we talked about making backups quite extensively. It was the first topic we covered. Going to Tools and Backup is where you would go to create any backup in the program. Performing a standard backup creates a zip file of your MusicMaster database, or MMD file, and leaves it in the same location where the MMD file is found in the program. So if your MMD file is in your CMMWin folder, that's where your backup is also going to be located when you do a standard backup. You can also create custom backup profiles. As we see, we have a handful of them here. If we go to Create, we can give it a name. Let's call it Monday. And we can have a backup file name. We're going to make this custom backup to our F drive, which in this case is our little thumb drive for our USB port. And we're going to call it monday.zip. So now when we run this backup, we're going to get a file called monday.zip on our F drive. And to do that, we would highlight the Monday and then hit Perform a Custom Backup. And it'd be taken care of that way. And that's all you need to do to create a custom backup. And you can have as many as you want. You see we've got about a half dozen listed here in this database. You can have as many as you want. So you can have a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and so on, each one named uniquely. That way, if one of your backups is corrupt, you can restore the one from the day before that. And if that one's corrupt, you can restore the one from the day before that. So that you're not losing a week or a month of history in data, you're only losing a day or so. And that's where you go to perform your custom backup. After you've made a backup, if you wish to restore it, that's done under Tools and Restore. Additionally, right now by default it's going to where the database is located. This one is located in my MMWin40 demo folder. If I wanted to restore from that F drive, just use the 3-dot box here on the end and go ahead and browse to that location. And that's how you go about creating backups and restoring from backups. And again, for more details on that, you can reference our webinar that occurred on April 4th called Dataset Maintenance. Jumping ahead to number 2, my BMI report was rejected by BMI, or my ASCAP report was rejected by ASCAP. They told me it was empty. Why is that? Well, it's a really good question and one that we get all the time, probably a couple times a week at least. So to create that BMI or ASCAP report, we're going to go to Dataset, Analysis, Special History Reports. This is the same place we went to create the Radio and Records report, as you'll see already here. We use the pull down and go up here towards the top, and we'll see our BMI ASCAP report. BMI and ASCAP aren't concerned about your non-music categories. They only want your music categories included. They don't care what you play for a promo and for a liner and so on. They only want to know what songs you played. So we're going to use our pull down here and select our music categories. So now that's all that is selected here in our list, are our music categories for this database. Set up your hours and dates accordingly. The report will be continuous. And here's the trick. If you just hit print now, you're not going to get a very good report. You have to go to the Options tab and fill in the details here. For example, your reporter type would be STA most likely for station. Station name, that's your call letters. Type would be AM versus FM. Your company name. Format most likely is music. And if you have a BMI or ASCAP account number, you would fill that information in here accordingly. Down below where it says song fields, just like we had to do in the Radio and Records report, you need to tell MusicMaster where to find the artist names, where to find the song titles, composer names, and if you have them, the ISRC and ISWC numbers. If you don't have a certain item in the database, leave it blank. This database doesn't contain composer names or ISRC or ISWC numbers, so we're going to leave those fields blank. Go back to the report setup and hit print. We're going to generate a report that will contain your call letters, which we indicated were WXXX, the year 09, and the month 05.emr. This file is already built in the format that BMI and ASCAP have requested from us at MusicMaster. That report, if you were to open it up in WordPad or Notepad or whatever, it's going to look kind of like this. I just have to show it to you. Here's what that report looks like. It has your details all the way across here, the date that we reran the report for, in this case April 26th, the time, and so on. And as we keep scrolling to the right, your artist info, the title info, eventually you'll see poser info, the run time of the item. You'll also see your ISRC and ISWC numbers here. This is formatted exactly how BMI and ASCAP want it, so that they take that file, drop it right into their software, and bingo, it imports everything in, populates it, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Let me turn it back on so we can see our MusicMaster again here. And here's our MusicMaster again. So that's how you would go about running your BMI or ASCAP report, which gives us plenty of time to talk about our number one question, and that's, why am I getting unscheduled positions in my log? Very common question. The most common answer is because you have a rule preventing a song from scheduling there. But we're going to back it up even further before that, starting at the very basics. I'm getting unscheduled positions. And we get this call very regularly right before Thanksgiving, because day after Thanksgiving in the U.S. typically starts Christmas music scheduling. And if you come in here to your scheduler, go to Auto Scheduler, you can turn on and turn off categories here in your categories to schedule. If you have a category like your Christmas category and it is not checked, those categories that are unchecked will not auto-schedule no matter what you do. They have to be checked in order to auto-schedule. And very commonly, especially when we get into the holidays, that's the problem. None of the Christmas is scheduling. It's because the categories have not been activated here in the auto-scheduler. I typically recommend just check everything by clicking the Check All button. Then everything's going to schedule every time. And if you're not calling for Christmas categories in your active clocks, you don't have to worry about scheduling them because they're not there. So that's the first thing you'll want to look for. Make sure the category is turned on. Second thing is, if it's a brand new category or a brand new clock, make sure the category has songs in it. Can't schedule music from a category that's empty. No matter what you do, there's not going to be a song available to play there. So those are the first two things to look for. Are there songs, and is the category turned on? If you say yes to both of those, then we have to take a look at some other things. That would be, let's take a look at the replacement window for that schedule. So we're going to open up the log here from May 1st, and we see we have an unscheduled position here at 12:17 a.m. We want to go about replacing that song. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to double-click on it to pull up our replacement list. If your replacement list comes up empty, that means there were no songs available to schedule at this point. Everything violates an unbreakable rule. You're going to want to make sure you have the show songs that pass unbreakable rules selected here, or hide unbreakable failures is what this is called. So right now we've got our first 10 songs that pass the rules, and we see all the rules are listed in green. Our goals, it didn't pass optimum hour exposure in this case, but we're doing pretty well here. This tells us that there are songs available to schedule. If this is blank, that means there is nothing at this point that works. Everything violates an unbreakable rule, so you want to double check for that. If there are songs listed here, that means most likely that that song was not part of the available depth. Remember we looked at depth for the A category and it was set at 1? Well, in a depth category like a recurrence or a gold category, your depth is going to be greater than that. If the depth isn't great enough, you might not be finding all the songs. To check your scheduling depth, go to Dataset, Schedule, Schedule Properties. Here's where you list your depths. We're looking 35% into our R category. So roughly a third of 50 songs, which is going to give us about 17 songs each time we go to schedule it. If none of those 17 songs worked, the position was left unscheduled. So even though you might have songs available here, those songs weren't in the available depth at the time you were scheduling the position. And you can check out what songs were being scheduled or what ones were being tested in that report that we looked at before called Thinking. And you can get to that dataset schedule recap report and go to Thinking file here. And if we pull way down here, we'll see, for example, we're looking now at the X category. And as we see, things keep failing unbreakable rules here in the X category. Until we get down here where, oh, this one works, it violates a breakable rule. So now this song is considered the best available in this song list. And we keep on going through here until all 34 songs have been tested. And it tells us that there were 11 total songs that work. And then our MusicMaster Optimum Goal Scheduling kicks in and determines what song is the best of those 11. And the song that won had an optimum song rest of 109%, hour exposure of 65%, and thus Amber by 311 is the song scheduled. If nothing works, you can see exactly why. You can see, well, it keeps violating artist keyword separation, or it keeps violating our sound code rules, and so on. Thinking file is a great place to look to find that information. The other place to look is right here in your recap report. If you see items that are failing all, you just click here on failed all, it's going to sort. And we see we had 2 songs that fail the rule group sound. In this case, it's a breakable folder. But if we see that number, for example, here on an unbreakable rule, that's the rule that caused an unscheduled position in that category. Real important to look those things up. And after you've done all that, it's a matter of adjusting the rules to make sure that the rules that apply make sense. And to do that, you'll go into your rule tree. Within the rule tree, remember we have that artist separation rule set at 310. Well, maybe 310 is too extreme for a lot of these artists. Maybe we need to relax that. The way to see that, click here on Related and go to the keyword editor and then find your artist keywords. You see how we have unique keyword separation times for a lot of these? Maybe some of them are too restrictive. Maybe we can't really expect to get 555 on a Treyu or 555 on a Avenged Sevenfold. Maybe 605 for clutch is too extreme. These are things you want to look at if artist separation is causing problems and causing you unscheduled. If it's a rule like format clock filtering or day parting or sound code rules, those are all the things to look at. And if you can't quite figure it out, you can always resort to the MusicMaster Rule Wizard, which is a little magic wand icon here. That goes through and analyzes your last auto-schedule session and says, these rules caused unscheduled or breakable violations. These rules were fine. These rules should be turned on or not turned on, and so forth. Like it's telling us here, we're not actually using clock filter 1, so we could actually turn that rule off, and we could remove it. It also tells us here things like, for our industrial sound code, our predicted turnover is 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we're requesting separation of 2:15, not a problem. We're asking for 45-minute separation or turnover here for our screamer sound code, and we're getting 45 minutes of separation, no problem, and so on and so forth. All things to look at here. And if you need to implement a change, simply double-click on it, and it will automatically change that setting in your rule tree. And that is our top 10 items that we get calls about at MusicMaster Support. Now, if you've got a question, and it doesn't happen to be one of these 10, or it could be one of these 10, by all means, contact your music scheduling consultant. You can email us. It's your consultant's first name at mmwin.com. Or if you are a supported user, you likely have your scheduling consultant's direct number. Give them a call. We're happy to help you out and help you figure out why MusicMaster is doing what it is and help you improve those rotations and help you set up those custom backups and help you set up the audio player at MusicMaster and so on. So I appreciate your time this afternoon, and I'm going to turn things back over to Drew Bennett.
Thanks, Paul. Excellent presentation on the top 10 support questions here at MusicMaster. Yeah, like you said, if you have any questions and you'd like to ask those regarding today's presentation, we're always here to help. Just contact your music scheduling consultant. Join us in the coming weeks for some scheduled webinars that we've got coming up. I think you're going to find them very helpful. Next week, May 6th, is going to be classic music tips and tricks. May 13th, we'll have Tech Talk, and that'll be for your engineers, so you might encourage them to stop down and take a look at those things with us. On May 20th, we'll go from zero to database in 60 minutes or less, and that'll be getting a database up and running when you need to do that quickly. And then on May 27th, we will take a look at in-depth rule tree functions. So appreciate your time today. Of course, if you have any questions, please call us. Call your music scheduling consultant, and we'll see you at the webinar next week. Have a good day.